just kick him because he is so much just trolling us. And
Who? P?
he's just stalling. Yeah, P Mars.
Starting in 60 seconds.
But is that okay?
Is what okay, sorry?
If I kick him if he joins?
I tell you every time, I've got no control over what you do in that regard.
No, but
Aaron.
I'm just asking, like...
No, I prefer no one snipe anybody ever.
Why are you being like this? Why can't you just
saying, but I
share
can't
your
stop you,
opinion?
can I? You don't need to ask my permission.
I'm not asking you if I can or cannot technically do it. I'm asking you, are you okay with that, considering the circumstances?
No, never. All are welcome. Just defeat his arguments rather than kicking him.
Fine.
But, you know, on the other hand, I can't stop you.
Yeah.
My internet connection is so bad.
Right, I'm starting. 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Jose, The Plain Truth, Sleeping Warrior, and Arwin. Good to have you all.
Yo, yo.
Good morning.
Hello. What?
Hello. Wow, nice to have you all. Any signs of curvature?
I've been told that we have a claim on curvature.
Oh, really? Excellent stuff.
Some moron by the name of Jonathan Joman. Have you come across him?
Nope.
It's Jonathan Joman, and it's spelt weird, but he believes prove the shape of the Earth, specifically shadows at high noon. And what he claims is that if you're in the quote northern hemisphere at high noon, your shadows will point north because the sun is to your south. And he further claims that in the south it's the opposite way around. And he believes that this proves, or not proves, but he believes that this proves that we live on a sphere. And I said, how on earth do you come to that conclusion? And he says, his words are, the shadows on a plane do not behave identical to shadows cast on the surface of a different shape. So he believes that there's a distinguishing factor between the shadows on a ball and the shadows on a plane, depending on whether we're on a ball or a plane or not. And of course, he has no evidence for this. It's just his perception, but he believes that this is true. So let's just consider for a moment whether or not the shadows cast on a ball differ to the shadows cast if it's not a ball. And my position is they're the same. You can't tell the difference. And if there is a difference, it would be microscopic and you would never be able to tell the difference. Does anybody have any views?
Well, it reminds me of the comic strip that I drew up with the curvature aspect, where if you have a baller and you are looking out across the ocean and you both see a distant island and you both calculate the geometry, you're going to come up with the same answer. And then the baller says, oh, wait, I forgot to add curvature. And then nothing changes. You still see the same object at the same distance. So it's the exact same thing with what we're talking about, which is the point that I brought up on the non sequitur discussion that I had, is that you are going to get the same results with two sticks in the ground. You have to bring in the curvature, and Nothing changes after.
I was gonna say he's a stick man. He's one of those R people.
Well, I'm not really sure what he's thinking because I can't actually see his his angle on this. Pardon the pun. But what he says to me is, he says this has been demonstrated and told. I don't know what he means when he says this has been demonstrated, but he says this has been told and demonstrated to you many times, but you seem to be unable to wrap your head around it. So basically, what he's saying is shadows point north when you're in the north, and shadows point south when you're in the south. But I don't see how I don't see how I'm not getting this on a flat plane, because to me it's the identical same. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But he's saying that I don't understand it. So I'm just standing back at myself and looking at my own self introspectively and thinking, have I got this wrong? So basically, what's the difference? Is there a difference between the shadows on a ball compared to a plane, or are they identical?
Well, that would make it a variable, wouldn't it? That would mean that you'd need to vary and manipulate that particular thing. So maybe ask him if he's capable of varying it to show the difference.
Well, it's not that; it's whether or not they're different anyway. Because he's saying that it's been explained to me many times, and I don't actually remember anybody explaining it to me. But nonetheless, he believes that I seem to be unable to wrap my head around it. So I'm wondering, am I missing something in the concept?
No.
Am I getting this wrong?
No. You take the measurement.
No, you're not.
And you either take it that it's as is, or you insert R.
Yeah. So basically, this guy's gaslighting me.
Yeah, or stupid.
The problem is that they are wrapping their heads around it. They're wrapping it into
I think this
Go.
needs to be illustrated visually to see how the explanation works. I mean, I cannot visualize it, like for real, this explanation. I can't.
Did anybody
Well,
hear
the one thing that surprised me on the non sequitur discussion that I had was that he postulated that both geographical locations were on the same longitude. That was his additional information that I had never heard before.
So have you been on the non sequitur show, Travis?
Yeah, I was on last Saturday.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Do you want to tell us again, just in case we missed it? I'm winding you up.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what? You and I had a discussion.
I know. We're winding you up. Just that you were name dropping almost. I know you probably weren't, but it felt like.
And by the way, yeah, your sound is awesome today, Travis. You're not in the truck today, right?
No, I'm off.
Yeah, it's very good.
So, any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Well, hang on, we haven't concluded that point though, have we?
Oh, we're not. Sorry, still on curvature. So
let's just conclude the point. Do shadows prove the shape of the Earth in any way? Can anyone see an angle on that?
No. You must make the question.
They're the same.
If
they were different, you wouldn't be able to discern the difference.
Objects.
What difference? You can't vary that. So what you have is what you get, and then either you take it as is, or you insert the R value. That's it.
So I think we'll close that point by saying that if there was a difference between the two, it's negligible, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So get varying that curvature that you believe that you're on, Jonathan Joman, moron.
Exactly.
Anyway, moving on.
He needs to wrap his head around the fact that you just take a measurement. You can't vary the shape of the Earth. So you just take, it's the same regardless of what you will do with it thereafter. And what they will do, globe heads that is assume a radius value. That's it. There's no difference in terms of what you measure, because you can't bend the Earth to see if it was different, or unbend the Earth to see if it was different depending on your viewpoint. You just get what you get. Anyway, any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
9 pa.
No matter is rotating.
No.
Nope.
About a gas pressure without a container?
Never.
No evidence of that whatsoever.
No.
Nope.
Pressure gradient difference, yes, but at the end, where it goes from very low pressure to a non-pressure, no evidence of it without
glad
a
you've
lid,
said that.
That's
without a container.
So tomorrow...
That dog is hundreds of miles away. Not even real.
So tomorrow, John is going to cover some flat Earth proof. John, Quantum Eraser. So if there's time, it may not be on the same show. It might be at a later date, but we're also going to cover logical fallacies. And I say we because it tends to be the case that John just does his presentation that he's prepared, and then that's the end. There might be a little bit of discussion. But in terms of the logical fallacies used, the one just mentioned by Jose being a straw man argument, they'll get discussed, hopefully, depending on how quick he gets through the flat Earth proofs, on Sunday or tomorrow. So yeah, tune in. Be here or be sphere. I think I might stick it under science versus scientism, although it doesn't necessarily fall under that category, but just so it's bundled with the same shows. I don't know yet, but we'll see. But tune in tomorrow. It'll be about 7 p.m. UK time.
Interesting. Looking forward for it.
Yeah, logical fallacies and flat Earth proofs.
Logical fallacy.
Yeah, logical fallacies and flat Earth proofs, but the logical fallacies might get split up into a different show at a different date, but certainly the flat Earth proofs will be tomorrow. It's worth plugging just for that. So yeah, be here or be sphere. Any evidence or any scientific evidence of gravity?
Absolutely no evidence for this downwards force whatsoever.
No. No scientific evidence?
No evidence.
Yeah, a
Nope,
lot of
nope,
evidence.
No evidence.
Yes, a lot of evidence.
Everything that we observe can be explained in full, comprehensively, by the relative but density buoyancy position.
Yeah, can be explained by, but doesn't actually give any cause to it. Why that works that way?
So we understand that we can manipulate the cause and manipulate the medium and make it do something.
Yeah, you can displace it. Doesn't tell you why it does that. Now does
We
it?
just manipulated the medium.
Right.
Okie dokie then. Any evidence for the distance to the sun?
No.
There is no distance to the sun.
Well said.
No.
Any evidence?
Trigonometry, Nathan. Trigonometry.
Trigonometry, eh? Where have I heard that?
Trigonometry.
Yeah.
In you all trust. Right, any evidence of a self-perpetuating Molten core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
None.
No.
Any evidence of that pesky presupposition itself, the R value? Any evidence of Earth radius?
A
I had a
radius.
conversation about this
Yeah.
last night. Let me think. Oh yeah, we were talking about I went over to Betty's Discord for about an hour or two last night, and I was having a conversation with them over there. And what they were saying is that they were challenging this perception that they claim that I've got a problem with being south. So basically, we went through the how do you get to what south is, and how do you know that it's the opposite point of north if you're on a ball? Because if you're at the opposite point of north on a ball, you are by definition antipode. That means that the north point is underneath your feet. It's like down in the ground, and it's not laterally at the horizon. You point off towards what you believe is north, and everybody points to the horizon. But actually, if we live on a ball, north is through the floor. So you're going to point down straight through your feet at the floor. That's antipode. So when they start pointing towards the horizon and saying, well, that's where north is over that way, I remind them that how do you prove antipode status? Because you've got to prove that you're underneath the point that's opposite your ass. And when you say it that way, they admit and accept that they can't prove it. And I'm like, oh, really? So if you accept that you can't prove antipode, then what makes you think we're on a sphere? And the answer is it comes back to that they just believe that we're on a sphere. But M. Scott Veach last night actually admitted that you can't prove antipodal status if you're trying to prove that the point that's immediately underneath your ass is south relative to where you are. In other words, antipode. You can't prove antipodal. You can only prove what is the direction that you would take to get to that point. And obviously, if you're on your own North Pole and the South Pole is the point that's underneath you, antipode to you, then that's under the floor. But M. Scott Veach admitted last night that he can't prove it. And I'm like, well, why would you believe it then? And the answer is because they believe it. They accept the evidence they're presented with. And of course, they're entitled to do that. But at least he was honest enough to admit that he can't prove antipodal status.
Of course not. They have to assume R. If the Earth is a ball, we will observe southern rotation point, blah, 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 blah. They have to assume it first.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what starting point. You know, they can say it's because some guy way back when looked up at a light in the sky and saw a curved shadow and then came to the conclusion that Earth was a sphere. And then move forward. That's basically what it boils down to. They then looked at the sun and it travelling in a circle and assumed they were measuring what it did when they were standing on the outside edge of a ball that spins. Well, that's a pretty big assumption. And if you were to take any person that had never, ever been indoctrinated with the heliocentric nonsense that we all have been in the Western world, they would, I'm pretty sure they'd struggle to actually understand the concept of antipodal star rotation. Because you'd have to explain to them, you're travelling out that way, but you're actually going to end up upside down below your ass. You know, most people would scratch their head had they not have watched Star Wars and Star Trek and had all the heliocentric programming at school.
Yeah.
I jumped in. Sorry, I jumped in the Discord yesterday, and I think you were leading in that very moment. And I caught the after show. You know, they were talking about how the interaction went down, but they were talking triangles. They say, "Oh, but he got the triangles wrong, and we got him in the triangles, and blah blah blah." They quizzed me in the triangle. They say they told me, you know, triangles and geometry. I said a little bit. So they quizzed me, and I passed with flying colors because it was kind of an easy question, and I just answered it. And they say that's the right answer, and Riley was denying it and trying to semantics. I say I don't know what the conversation was about for real.
Well, what they did was we were talking about right angle triangles for calculating the distances to things like Venus, for example, right? But what he did was he asked me a specific question about equilateral triangles. And if you ask a question about an equilateral triangle when you're referencing right angle triangles, that's called a straw man, because we're talking specifically about the trig to do with right angle triangles. So when he asked me a straw man argument, and the point was, if you know the three sides, the length of the three sides in an equilateral triangle, it'll give you your angles. But if it's a right angle triangle, it didn't. And anyway, it turned out that I can't remember whether I was wrong on one part of it. I can't remember which part I was wrong on. But the point was that he was referencing equilateral triangles. I was referencing right angle triangles, and it was a complete straw man anyway. But they take these little victories there, which sure you can have it. It doesn't change the shape of the Earth. But here's the other thing that's funny. Lewis, I hadn't spoke to Lewis for months and months and months, and he was in there. And he come up with a glib comment that was unwarranted and it wasn't necessary. And I said, Lewis, it was fine until you came in. Now you've come in and started throwing out nasty comments. Like, I said, take the comment back. I said, you don't have to apologize, but take it back because it's unnecessary. And with a bit of persuasion, he took it back, and then the conversation carried on. Some other Burke, I don't know who he was, but some other Burke basically said that I don't even understand what perspective is. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Of course I understand what perspective is. Objects get smaller as a function of distance. And he admitted, he then agreed that I understood what perspective was. I says, right, so you can retract your previous comment then. He wouldn't retract it. And I was like, what do you mean you won't retract it? And he just sat there silently. I says, retract your previous comment that you think that I didn't know what perspective was. And he wouldn't do it. And I just said, right, okay, no worries. That's the end of my conversation. Have a good evening, gentlemen. And off I went to. But if you guys think that I'm going to spend time chatting to you about the shape of the Earth, right, you've got to be at least decent enough when you make a nonsense assertion that turns out to be wrong to at least retract it. If you ain't going to do that, there's no point in even having a conversation with you because it's intellectually dishonest. And whilst we're talking about intellectual dishonesty, I'm going to tell you all about Jem Panda and Mark Taylor. Now, these guys are intellectually dishonest because these guys know damn well that what they were arguing was wrong, right? But they were arguing it anyway. Now, they're not stupid. They know that this is wrong. Their position is wrong, but they argued it anyway. That's why it's dishonest. And what it was to do with was the International Space Station. And it was to do with confirming the consequent form of logical fallacy. Because basically, we can all accept that there is something up there, right? Could be a plane, could be a bird, anything. Whatever's up there, it does look like it's something that might be something man-made. And it does look like it might be metallic. Sometimes maybe not, but nonetheless, it's open to interpretation. But I think everybody on our side of the argument says there's no humans in it. And that's assuming that it is actually what they tell us it is. Now, what happened was, who was it now? It was Chris MCM said that him and Paper Explanator, because they both live in the UK, there was a flyover.
Is that you, Warren? Hello? Hello? You're on mute.
Oh, yeah.
Good to have you.
Yes, mate.
Cool. So there was a flyover in the UK, apparently, of this International Space Station, and it was decided that Paper Explanator and Chris MCM would go outside, and they would look in their relevant position, and they would both confirm that they seen the light zip across the sky. And I was like, so what? What does it prove? And the argument became, well, if they go out, if they tell you to go outside at a certain time and you see the light zipping across the sky exactly when they tell you that it should be there, that supports the idea that the International Space Station might be doing blah, blah, blah. And I said, but it doesn't know. I said, all you're seeing is a light. It doesn't confirm anything other than at the time they tell you to go outside, a light goes flying by. And they would not accept that it doesn't prove anything more than a light goes past at the time they tell you to look up, right? I interpret that to mean, well, that could be anything that they've put there to make you think that you're looking at the International Space Station. It might even look like an International Space Station, but it's nowhere near 400 kilometers away, and for different reasons, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I was trying to explain to them that this is literally, you're affirming the consequent. And if you do that, basically the position is, if International Space Station's orbiting the Earth the way they tell us, light flies by you at 11 o'clock at night. Light flies by you at 11 o'clock at night. Therefore, ISS is orbiting the Earth. And you can't make that jump. Now, Jen Panda and Mark Taylor both know that you can't make that jump, right? All you can confirm at 11 o'clock at night was a light went past you, right? And even if paper saw it down in London, it doesn't mean that it's orbiting the Earth, because it doesn't follow it doesn't necessarily follow. It can be explained by other means that the light just went past you at 11 o'clock at night. But it does not mean it's orbiting no plane, no sphere. Doesn't mean it's orbiting no plane either. Because the question would be, well, if you lived somewhere in South Africa, which is relatively speaking south of where we are, would that International Space Station fly over you as well? And if you could get people all dotted right the way along the flight path as it went overhead, and then it went over all of the landmass in a southerly direction, the way they tell us it does do, and you could plot it and put people along it right the way across, and everybody saw it in unison, then that adds more weight to the idea that it might be doing something similar to what they say, but it still doesn't even prove an orbit. To prove an orbit, you've got to show that it's going around a ball. But
what doesn't prove is there's no people on it.
A trajectory, just...
But my point is that Mark Taylor and Jeremy both know that this point that they were trying to make, which was that it adds weight to the idea of the ISS being what they tell us it is, it doesn't. They know that, but they were pushing it anyway. And everybody that was listening all believes now that if you look up in the sky, a light that goes by, and that means that basically the ISS is orbiting a sphere. No, it doesn't. Now, they won't accept that. They'll argue that's not the point that was being made. And if they're out there and they want to join, feel free to attack. But fundamentally, the point is this. A light going by at 11 o'clock proves nothing more than a light going by at 11 o'clock. It's a confirming the consequence. It's not true that it means that it's orbiting the ball just because they tell you to look up at that time. You look up at that time and then you see what they tell you should see. Doesn't mean that that's true. Nathan?
But there's a lot of smart people in that light in the sky doing backflips and eating lettuce up there.
What I'm very curious at is what would happen if you'd have a relatively fast plane and then keep following it.
Yeah.
Like
they were arguing that
keep the camera pointed at it and just try to match the speed. I don't know how fast it's supposed to be going, but just make sure it doesn't disappear out of view and then keep following it.
Yeah.
See what happens.
It's embarrassing that these guys literally, I mean, I'm pretty certain that they both understand that it is literally a form of logical fallacy to take their position that they were taking.
Hold on
they know that.
Anthony, hold on. Hi, Flat Earth Vegan, Goy, and Unbelievable Productions. How you doing?
Hi.
Hello, Unbelievable Productions.
Have I got to open up Hangouts in the background now?
Your sound.
Unbelievable Production. You're very active on the comments and the chat board. Never heard of you before. Welcome. Talk, please.
Yeah, your mic's not working, I think.
Who, me?
No.
Unbelievable Productions.
Unbelievable Productions. Maybe this is.
He seems like a friendly. We'll leave him in.
Go to the settings.
Maybe he's just placeholding. Who knows? If we all get booted, we'll know he's
yeah,
not friendly.
I heard a hello. I heard hello. I think it was him, and then he muted himself. So.
That was Vegan Goy, I think.
You can hear me, right? Flat Earth Vegan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to try again, Unbelievable Productions? Yes, we hear you, Vegan Goy. Nope. Don't worry. Yeah, you've opened your mic, but we still can't hear you. So just move your mouse over the web page if you're on a PC or Mac, and then top right there's a cog. Just click the cog, and then change the mic settings. Hopefully you heard that.
Sometimes I just unplug the USB cam if that's what I'm using, plug it back in, it works fine because it likes to fight with other programs.
When I do that, it just refuses to operate.
Well, whilst he's working it out, Nathan, do you want to present what you think about the light flashing by at 11 o'clock at night and what it proves compared to what they think it proves?
Well, I did listen to a bit of that conversation last night, and I didn't ask, but I kind of puzzled over why you just decided that it was the size of a football field.
Well, that's what they tell us roughly it is.
But so,
I know. See, Nathan and I don't agree on this, how to approach things. I don't mind flirting with their nonsense belief. Nathan is just like, no, don't even entertain them. But I don't mind working it out because I like to see how strong their arguments are. But nonetheless, I take your point. I mean, what do we know? I mean, is there any evidence that they built this thing? Where is it? Proofs that they actually built it? Blah, blah, blah. I get that. But I think I just like to argue with them, to be honest.
That's fair
especially
enough.
Jeremy, because he's the most disingenuous sack of shit out there.
I mean, you also got to a point where they were saying, well, have you done the maths? And it's like, well, it makes no difference whether or not you've done the maths. If you include R, you will get a further distance. If you don't include R, it will be closer. It's as simple as that. You don't need to do the maths to know that.
Lewis was demanding that I did, and I was like, no, dude, I'm having me tea at the minute. Right, literally right now I'm eating me tea whilst I'm talking to you. And you want me to start doing maths, which isn't even necessary. The point is that on the math, we all know that the maths works both ways. So it's like, well, if it's 400 kilometers away when it's far away, well, when it's not far away and it's close, it's going to be like 150, however high it is. Who cares? But it's significantly closer. So the point is, well, it doesn't really prove anything, Lewis. And my point then followed, which was, well, if it is the size they tell us it is, which is a football field, but you're telling me it's now 400 kilometers away, I'm going to call nonsense on that because I don't think you can see a football pitch from 400 kilometers away. That's further than looking for me to look to London, right? I'm not going to see a bloody football pitch that far away. But if it's only like 50 kilometers away, that makes a lot more logical sense to me. It seems proportionate and it's less remote than their position. But of course, their position is met by 15 people that all sit there like in the House of Commons where they all moo like cows in a field where they go, and that's what happens. They all vote by consensus. So if they all grunt, then that means that I lose, regardless of the truth of the matter.
How does that go again?
That's what they do in the House of Commons.
But Riley, trigonometry and 7/6R, remember?
Yeah.
Math, bro.
But it's ruled by consensus, though. It's not ruled by the merit of the argument. No matter how right you are, if there's 15 of them and it's you on your own, or maybe with Jose in the background, you're going to lose by 15-2, right? Even if you are right, because they'll just go.
That's what happened to Truman.
Truman in the Truman Show.
Yep.
Yeah. We live in a world that we are judged by consensus, regardless of the truth of the matter.
Sorry, I didn't get that reference. What happened to Truman?
Well, Truman, I mean, it was even if he was to suspect the truth, no one, even his best friend or his wife, would let on.
Right, I see.
It's a good
It
video.
was him against the world.
Yeah, so let's just be clear that the ISS flying over at 11 o'clock does not prove that it's orbiting the Earth the way we're told. Just proves that there's a light there. To argue that it's anything more than that, you are a moron. Jeremy, Mark, you are a moron. Goodbye.
Give me some evidence that there's people on it.
Yeah, that's the point.
Like good stuff, not with the little wires and virtual augmented reality and green screen. And no, I don't want that. I want like evidence, like real deal.
Yeah, there was a jerk that was trying to argue that you could bounce signals off it and get radio bounces back off it. And I was like, have you seen how fast it goes across the sky? You really think that you're going to hit that moving target with a radio bounce? I don't think so.
Yeah, and how about do a live feed after in 2018? Do a live feed, so when we see it overhead, you can see from the live feed. Oh, it really is there. But God forbid they do that, because every whatever time they say, oh, it's on the dark side. There's no communication now.
I'd like to see some infrared footage.
I'd like to see how it is that when Jerem was doing his laser testing and the ISS was flying by, and he literally went outside and tried putting the laser in the sky, and apparently it went past. No sign of no laser, but they all believe it's true.
Right, but if you get infrared footage, then that automatically excludes any holographic phenomena.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the sky at night with the infrared, you just see black.
Can you see the moon
as well?
Can you see the moon with infrared?
I don't think so.
Very interesting.
Of course you can.
Yes. Although maybe there, I haven't actually checked that, but you definitely don't see stars.
Well,
and you probably will see the moon. I mean the sun.
Well, everybody in that hangout that I had last night on Betty's channel, all on their side, they all thought that Mark and Jeremy were both right with their affirming the consequent nonsense, and they weren't. It's just their tactics are just based on intellectual dishonesty, all of them. I can't see any of them being intellectually honest, yet they accuse us of the exact same thing, and it's like, hang on a minute. All we're doing is unraveling the nonsense that you guys are pushing as truth and realizing that actually you guys are projecting your dishonesty onto us. You're the ones that are being dishonest.
Yeah, when I got there, I felt like it was like an intervention. I don't know if you've seen a show, like when somebody very drug addict or alcoholic, and the family get together with an expert, and they gather everybody with that person, and they try to persuade him to go get treatment and get away of the disease. You know, they were doing an intervention with me, and they asked me until they got me to give him my take on gravity. They insisted, but what do you think about gravity? This I said, all right, this is my take on gravity. Oh, they didn't like it, man. And then the show started there, and they start going on and off. And I said, all right, you see, that's why I don't give my opinion. Like I'm not too articulate in explaining myself. I give you my take on it, and that's it. Take it or leave it. And they were pissed. But we gotta take a hit.
Yeah, I think the gravity point's a really interesting point because I'm chatting with people in FE Core, just finding out what their position is. Because obviously I don't want to go in there like being the only gay in the village and having my own unique view. So I'm talking to them about what they think, what is their position on gravity, and to see is there like some kind of like common ground, or is there does everybody have a particular view on it, and for what reason? And the only bit that's consensus is that this downwards acceleration attractive force thing to the center of a mass, Cavendish-esque kind of interpretation, is nonsense. So it's nice that everybody's open to what might be there, but I'm not really interested in what it might be. I'm more interested in what it's not, and it's not what we're told. It could be somewhere else. Cool. And there is evidence that supports it. It doesn't prove it, but there is evidence that supports that it could be somewhere else if there is somewhere else. But ultimately, this downwards force...
So there is evidence of gravity.
No, you've not listened to what I just said.
Yeah, that's literally what you just said.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not what he said.
Yeah.
I didn't say that. Listen back.
You did. I will.
I was careful with my words because I knew what you may react.
Yeah, I know you tried to be careful, but
yeah,
you said there could definitely be some evidence out there.
The center of the Earth. That's what I'm referring to. That everybody accepts that there's no evidence that supports.
Yeah, but we agree on that as well.
God, I'm not going to get a gap unless I interrupt. I'm really sorry. Hi, Spurs. How you doing? Good to have you, Spurs. Hello.
Hello. You hear me? We're live.
Yes, we hear you.
Hello, Spurs.
Hi. Are we live or we're not live?
We are live.
Oh, we are live.
But I'm glad to hear that about FE Core. I'm glad that they're seeing reason.
I think you need to re-listen to what I just said, Arwin. I think you've missed it.
Yeah, I know what you just said.
Hey, P.
No, I don't think you do.
It's good. It's good.
Hold on. Hey, P.
Hi.
Good to have you.
Arwin, I'd strongly urge you to go back and listen to what I said.
Yeah, I will.
I didn't give you anything that you should get excited about.
Comment as well. So thank you for that.
No, I didn't give you anything that you should get excited about.
No, I know you didn't mean to, but you did anyway.
Then perhaps there might be an issue with what you think you heard.
Yeah.
All right, let me put it to you a different way, Arwin. Nobody agrees with you. All right.
Nah, that doesn't work, man.
Anyway, anybody know what's going on with Chelsea and United? They were 1-0.
Oh, who
United
cares?
were losing at half time.
No.
I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, it finished 2-2.
2-2.
Ross Barkley got the.
Hiya, Flatner.
Hello.
Hello. Good to have you.
Oh,
2-2, Anthony.
I hope United didn't equalise in the last minute. That'll cheese me off if they did. You joined? I didn't see you joined.
Earth Flatner.
Oh, hello, Earth Flatner.
Hey, buddy.
Hold on. Joe Kovacs in chat says that the moon can actually be seen with infrared. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah, I said that. I did say that when you were like, you can't see the moon with it. I was like, of course you can.
Oh, right.
That sort of debunks what Crow777 with his videos.
Well, not
being a
necessarily.
hologram.
Not
What
necessarily.
So, what's Crow 777 been debunked on? Sorry, you'll have to fill me in. I'm obviously very badly informed. At the moment.
Well, he's got a video showing the moon with a line that goes up and down every month or so before or after the solstices, and he claims that that's proof that it's a hologram or something to that effect.
Yeah, but can still be. Light can be just pure light, or it can be a carrier of heat if the light has that spectrum. So it can still become visible in infrared. And it's just a confirmation that there is some kind of temperature factor with the moon. That's a direct
that's
confirmation of that.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, because he actually claims that it's that there's a hologram that goes out in front of the actual moon itself, which is a different type of which is whatever it is. So
really?
There we go.
Well, I thought maybe I misinterpreted what I saw.
Yeah, he doesn't claim it's a hologram.
I think it's just a hologram and a source of light. Cold light, for some reason. But
There's a few people
I think
in
that
the
the
chat.
holographic phenomena itself isn't necessarily like a lamp or anything. It's just an image that happens to be at the epicenter of the direction of that light. And
Pete,
I don't know where it's coming from.
What's this heresy, Pete, that you're playing right now?
What? This is just my.
That's
this is just how I
gravity.
see it.
This is gravity, is it, Pete?
Yeah, and the moon isn't a hologram because we can bounce radar off it.
Do you want to share Pete's screen, Nathan? Let's look at this nonsense.
Got it up now. I won't play too much of it. Just don't want to get copyright strike. So, can you tell us what we saw? Was it a Cavendish experiment, P?
No, it's not magnetic.
Yeah,
at
it's
all.
Cavendish.
How do you know that there's no magnetic influences going on, P?
Hold on. If it's
Because the little balls are surrounded by a magnetic box or a metal that's ferrule or whatever.
all right, we can do this. So, if it's an experiment, what's the hypothesis?
Dum 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 dum.
I'd like to do some magnetic readings, basically, on that.
Yeah, he's claiming
It's
that's
still easy to cheat, you know?
Are you claiming that that's a Faraday's cage there, P?
Hold on. What's the hypothesis? Let's not worry about the methodology of the experiment. Let's establish what the hypothesis was, whether or not we validated or invalidated that hypothesis with the experimentation that's been done. So, what's the hypothesis?
Are you not jumping the gun there, though, Nath?
No. Am I wrong? Is this not an experiment?
Yeah, but what isn't the first question? What's the phenomena that's observed?
Well, that would be established in the hypothesis. That would be your dependent variable.
Okay.
Come on, Pete, don't get shy.
So I think the question is, I think what P is trying to say is, why are those two little balls?
Look at that. Look at how fast that's going.
Right?
It's crazy. Look at how the clock is really not going that fast. So this, seriously, Cavendish gravity, it's not supposed to work that fast. It's ridiculous. This can only be magnetic.
I think
Wait, hold on,
Look
Owen.
at that.
Owen.
It just displaces
Owen.
within an hour. Look,
Sorry, so you said this can only
10
be...
minutes.
Owen, You said this can only be. So the thing you're saying can only be would be, in scientific terms, the cause. Again, established in the hypothesis.
You just speculate what could cause it to move.
Yeah, so Anthony's objection, shouldn't we first establish the effect? No, that would be the...
Officially, the gravity is not supposed to be
why are you
even
talking
working
all
that
over
strong.
me, Arwin? Right, so Anthony's question was, why not the phenomena first? Well, that's established in the dependent variable, and the cause, presumed cause in hypothesis, would be established with the independent variable. Hence me now asking for the fourth time, what is the hypothesis for this experiment?
Pete, your mic's on mute. Maybe we can't hear you with your answer.
This experiment shows gravity.
Maybe
Mass attracts mass, because when you move the larger balls, the smaller balls move.
Sorry. A hypothesis is a scientific...
Where the larger balls are.
You're just rattling off nonsense. So, a hypothesis, P, is a scientific prediction. It establishes your cause and effect relationship with an independent and a dependent variable. The independent variable is the presumed cause. So, let's start there. What is the presumed cause here?
This explains why there's a pressure gradient in the atmosphere because of gravity.
No, don't red herring us with that
alright.
shit.
I'll ask
Well,
again.
why do you think there's a pressure
Arwin.
gradient in the atmosphere?
No, don't you get
Arwin!
involved.
I'm trying to talk to P. So, P, please can you tell me what the independent variable is in this experiment? Your presumed cause.
I will, but I want you to tell me what you think causes the pressure gradient in the atmosphere.
Sorry, that's a completely different subject. We can get to the nonsense of space and its complete violation of the second law of thermodynamics at a later stage. This is supposed to be proving gravity. So, I would like to know what the independent variable is in this experiment, P.
Whoa, tumbleweed almost hit me.
Right. So, P, you're gonna...
I also have a high altitude balloon picture that shows the curve of the Earth.
Are you deaf?
No, I'm just. I want you to answer my question.
Well, why aren't you answering me?
Because I want you to answer my question.
You've presented what you've claimed as an experiment. An experiment is the expression of a hypothesis. Now, you haven't given us a hypothesis, but I'm trying to get a single section of that hypothesis from you. Your independent variable. The presumed cause in your experiment. What is the presumed cause here, P?
Yeah, we've already had the same conversation.
I don't want you to tell me what we've already done. You've got it on screen now. You've got it on screen now. I'm not interested in you presenting something that's been argued about 6 months ago or yesterday. You're presenting it now, so tell me now what the independent variable is for your experiment.
It's gravity.
How do you vary and manipulate gravity?
You change where the big balls are, because the big balls...
Sorry, that's not varying and manipulating gravity, is it, P? That's varying and manipulating some metal balls, not gravity. How are you going to vary and manipulate your presumed cause? Gravity.
I just answered. The big balls manipulate gravity because gravity
Sorry,
is...
big balls do not manipulate gravity. You are trying to manipulate gravity as the researcher. It is your independent variable, according to you.
That's what's happening. They're manipulating gravity by changing the position where the larger balls are. Because
you're just playing with balls.
Oh, Arwin can't help himself. I'm not allowed to have this argument with P. Arwin just wants to get involved.
No.
So P, that's not manipulating and varying gravity.
Mass, gravity.
No.
Right? So
no.
You change where the mass is, you change the gravity.
Oh, so you're changing mass?
Yeah, the big balls
are. Oh, well, then you're not varying and manipulating gravity, P. You're varying and manipulating mass, apparently, now. Why is the independent variable changing?
Mass attracts mass.
Sorry, why are you saying that the independent variable is no longer gravity, but now mass?
Because mass and gravity are related, because mass...
sorry, we're trying to establish the cause of the effect, not some relation that you assert, P.
Yeah, more mass is more gravity.
Oh, really? Where's your experiment to prove
really.
that? So we're not varying and manipulating gravity, your presumed cause, then?
No, we are.
No, you've just said we're manipulating mass.
It's the same thing.
Oh, is it? Says who?
Yes.
Mass is gravity.
Mass has a gravitational field.
Oh, so mass isn't gravity. Mass has a property of gravity, according to you. Not that we're validating this scientifically, you're just asserting it. Apparently, this test proves gravity, P. Yet you laugh while I take your pants down in front of several hundred people and spank you live, P. You are retarded. This is not science. It does not have a valid hypothesis. It is not proof of gravity.
But it is. Haven't you ever heard...
Oh, but it is, because I believe, even though it's not science, even though I'm not varying the independent variable.
I am varying the independent... Have you ever heard there's less gravity?
I am varying the what? The gravity? You're varying that gravity, are you, P? Your presumed cause being gravity?
Yeah, have you heard that there's less gravity on the moon?
Show me gravity. Show it me. Then show me how you manipulate gravity.
I am showing it to you.
Show it me then.
Video
No, you're showing me the experiment. I want to see the independent variable on its own, alone, so I can see what it is and then establish how you're going to vary it. Show me gravity.
I am.
No, you're showing the experiment that apparently proves gravity without having a valid hypothesis or independent variable that is actually the presumed cause. You're not varying gravity, you're just talking over me. Do it again and I'll kick you out. You don't like the fact that you're ignorant of this, P. It's taken us this long to establish that your independent variable is not gravity.
It is. Have you
You just keep asserting it. One more time, P, I kick you out. You're not varying gravity. You're a dipshit.
No, I am varying gravity.
Oh, really?
Bye, P.
Yeah.
Bye, P.
Bye.
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 So are you literally going to choose to ignore reality in this regard, P? It's not an experiment. It doesn't conform to science. It hasn't got a valid hypothesis. Are you just going to deny these things because you choose to believe Cavendish?
Well, I don't think you've made a good argument that this isn't an experiment. Would you agree that there's less gravity on the moon?
Sorry, we're talking about this quasi-experiment, and in an experiment, you first have a hypothesis, which establishes the presumed cause. Now, according to you, the presumed cause is gravity. I say, show me what you're varying and manipulating, and you say balls, because they have mass, and mass is a property of the thing I'm trying to prove. So you're assuming that they are being affected by gravity. Gravity is not your independent variable. It's not being validated as the cause. Now, I've explained this concisely, P. Are you now going to turn around and say, I am manipulating gravity, or are you going to accept what I've said?
Oh, I don't accept what you're saying. It's a poor argument.
Okay, so in an experiment, P, do you accept that as a researcher, you will vary and manipulate the independent variable? Do you accept that?
Yeah, and I think they are manipulating gravity by changing the mass where the mass is.
Sorry,
That's how
you just said
gravity.
they are manipulating gravity because they are changing mass. So you're... Yes. Hold on. Do you understand that that is two words? So if I was to say I am manipulating gravity because I am manipulating gravity, I am manipulating this tree because I'm manipulating the tree. I don't say I'm manipulating the tree because I'm manipulating the soil, which affects how the tree is, because then I'm manipulating soil. Like you're manipulating balls, not gravity, P. Do you understand that they're different things? Balls, because they have gravity, because they have mass, which is, according to you, affected by gravity, is not the same as varying and manipulating gravity. Do you understand that?
I don't accept that. That's not true.
So you believe that by varying something that is not gravity, that conforms to gravity being the thing you vary. You believe that, do you, P?
I mean, gravity is mass attracting mass.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to prove with your experiment, P. Don't just assert it. We have to establish how your experiment has established this with science, and not an assertion about what's happening before doing the experiment. In an experiment, you as the researcher will vary and manipulate the independent variable to establish whether or not your presumed cause, that very same independent variable, is or is not the cause. So if you're saying gravity causes this, then you need to vary and manipulate gravity.
I realize that's what's happening. Out of this pit is telling us when did you go to the moon and experience the gravity differential yourself. I think this is the only way you can escape this corner you are.
I'm not in a corner. Nathan's just lying. I don't know.
No, I'm not lying at all. I'm stating categorically that as a researcher, if you are adhering to the scientific method and trying to validate or invalidate a hypothesis via systematic experimentation, you will absolutely be varying and manipulating the independent variable, your presumed cause of the effect.
Hey, what's gravity?
It's when mass attracts mass, and so we just vary the mass, and then we can see, you know, that it's the mass is causing the objects to move.
So, is that the current science?
Yeah. You could think of it as like a mass has a gravitational field around it. Every mass does.
Are you aware that the current definition by science for gravity is the bending of space-time? It's not the attractive force between masses, the way you believe.
Yeah, it's not a force, right?
It's not the attractive force between masses, the way you believe. That's not the current science. I'm just wondering, why would you assert that the not current science is some proof of gravity when it's not the current accepted science?
Well, I mean, you could describe it like these lead balls are bending space-time to make the smaller balls move towards them, right?
Describe pink unicorns as gravity if you want, P. If it's not current science, why are you doing it?
It is current science. I don't know what you're talking about.
Einstein completely undermines Newton. Idiot.
You told me
Einstein doesn't debunk Newton. That's
undermines. Snapped the wand in two. Superseded. Use whatever word you like. current science accepts Einsteinian gravity. Let's just get this nice and close to the mic. Not Newtonian.
Do you understand that, P?
I was about to say, do you get that?
That's not true. They're both accepted.
Yes, that is absolutely 100% true. Einsteinian gravity is the current science. Newtonian is not.
Do you want me to bring the citation up for it, Nate?
Go ahead, and then we'll round out. The science denier P. Mars, who just basically denies science in favour of his religious belief.
It is hard, though, Nathan. Come on, it's all they've known all their lives. They've been indoctrinated very, very stringently every day in, day out, globe. So to let that go, it was very difficult.
Yes.
But I think
Mars
we'll
claims
there,
to be trying to unprogram himself, though. So P. Mars is either just a liar or is happy to fly in the face of this religious belief on this show. Just doesn't make any sense.
Balls proving balls.
This is difficult. This is difficult to argue the scientific method, you know, from a different point of view. But if he can show me proof when he went to the moon, because he was telling his differential of gravity in the moon, then if he can show me he went to the moon, I think he'll be all right. You say it.
I would like to. What do you think causes the pressure gradient?
Let's not worry about that, P. We can talk about that in the next show. Let's stick to this Newtonian and Einsteinian problem that you seem to be saying we're liars or are wrong about. Anthony, you're up.
So, P, are you skilled with the art of reading? Do you know how to read?
I would assume yes.
How Einstein revealed the universe's strange non-locality. Okay, and you can find this just by looking for this phrase online. And in this document, I'm looking for the bit where it's been a while since I've looked at this. There we go. Initially, Isaac Newton's concept of gravity seemed to imply the phenomenon of non-locality, because the attractive force between masses appeared to act magically across the expanses. That's what you're describing, isn't it, P? Magic force of attraction.
Yes,
Come on, P, you paying attention?
Let's not have great long pauses. Yes, that's precisely what he's describing.
Spooky action at a distance, yeah. I follow you.
And what I'm going to have to do here, I might have to actually do a control and F on this, because it's quite a big document. It's been a while since I've looked at it, and I can't remember exactly where it is. It's coming up. Can you be on wait, please?
Gravity is a lot like my love life, if you want to describe it as spooky action at a distance.
Here we go. So, Isaac Newton's gravity. Are you watching, P? Isaac Newton's gravity acted at a distance as if by magic, and general relativity snapped the wand in two by showing that the curvature of space-time, and not an invisible force, gives rise to gravitational attraction.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, you know exactly what to do. But if you liked it, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you have not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!